Hi, and welcome to another episode. And what we've got here is a Nintendo Entertainment System. There we go, says it on the front of the box. It must be true. Some people call them NES, some people call them NES, and some people call them NES. I'm one of the ones that call them NES, with a Z sounding sound. Anyway, NES. Yeah. This is the first time I've had one. I've never really played on one of these. If I've ever played on one, I'm sure it's all the way back to when they were in the shops. I don't know of any friends that had them while I was growing up. They're more into Spectrums and Ataris and Amigas and Commodore 64s and stuff when these things were still kicking about when they first came out. The only cartridge I've got is one of these, which is the Miracle cartridge for the keyboard. And click up there and go have a look at that video when you've watched all of this one, because this one is going to show you how to get this fixed, to a point at least anyway. We'll put the cartridge in. I've already used Isopro on it. No muck seems to come off. I doubt this cartridge has ever been used before, but when I turn it on I get this classic problem of where the light just carries on flashing. It's not because the cartridge isn't a PAL region one, it's because most likely where the cartridge goes in at the back here, which is sort of that shape but that way around, has it that the cartridge goes in and you press down, and by doing that though you end up bending pins. By design you end up over a period of time squashing the pins, and they don't like that. And also of course, depending on how many dirty cartridges have gone in, the pins get dirty back there as well. So we need to open this up so I can have a look at what's in there and see if we can clean it up. Just to give a bit of this coverage of, obviously second hand, I got 3 game pads, original power supply unit, even though that it's got a EU plug on it, a European plug. I'm going to take that plug off and put on a UK plug just to make my life a bit easier, and that's about it really. So let's get inside and see what's happening. So I've taken the 6 screws out, I believe it is. Yeah, 3 at the bottom and 3 across the top there. That wasn't easy, and I've got a fair few different screwdrivers, and this was the only one that just about worked, and I had to use some force. I had to like push it down and then spin it. You can't really see from do it on this one. Right. Okay, so finally got all the screws out. 3 across there and 3 in those points, and I had to use this screwdriver. I've got a fair few different screwdrivers, but this was the only one that actually fitted, to make it go down and get some strength behind it, because I had to push down and then turn, and even then it was a bit of an effort, so be ready for that. They do come out, but make sure you've got a decent screwdriver. Like a little one like that isn't going to do. It reaches far enough down for the screw, but isn't good enough to actually give you some grip and get going. So now we've done that though, let's flip it over. Oops. And we can just slide the lid off so that can go have a bath. First though, remove this section. It's got 2 screws there, and then remove those 2 screws, and then there's the screws that hold down the flap and the metal bits. Obviously we want to remove them because we don't want them to get rusty, so we'll sort that out later. As always, you'll not really get to see me giving them a bath. I'll just get it all cleaned up. But as you can see, we've got a lot of dust in here, and we need to get rid of these screws so we can take this top RF shield off. So I'll get on with doing that. Okay, now that the shielding's off, be careful with this. It's like a dull razor blade, it will try to slice you up. Now that we've got that far though, we now need to remove these 6 screws, I believe it is, to get in there. So let's get on with doing that. Ah yes, well I remember, this screw and this screw are silver in looking, and as you can see they're actually longer. So remember that they sit at the back, but they're the screws that go through the PCB. Okay, now that we've taken all those screws out, it appears that we need to take this screw out. You can just about see there, that one and this one. I've seen in other people's taking theirs apart. The earthing seems to be just sat right next to this. It's not actually all one, so but I'm going to undo that as well. With those two screws taken out, and I need to lift the whole thing out, but you've got to be careful here because there's still wires connected to stuff on the front, which we're just going to leave there, quite frankly. What we're going to do is sit that over there, flop this over, and then from here we should be able to mess about and take off the bottom RF shield like this. Bit of messing around. There we go. It can sit over there as well. And as we can see, we have a PAL EEC version. Which shows you how old it is, quite frankly. This should slide off forwards now, and then we can see how amount of dust this board has actually collected over the years. The whole thing needs a bit of a clean out, I think. I think I'm going to have to mess around and actually remove all of this from the board at some point to make sure it gets a good clean, but for now we're just making sure the thing works. So we've taken the tray off. Now we need to take the edge connector off, which I'm going to hold at this angle. Oh, actually maybe I'll hold it the other way around. Oh, yeah, I'm going to hold it this way, give myself some space, because this hasn't been removed since it was put on the factory. There we go. Yeah, the edge connector on there seems fine, so we'll gently put that back in there for now, but this is the bit we're interested in. And the one thing you want to do is make sure you remember which way was up. No, which way was up? So we have this being the base, and this is the bit where the cartridge goes in. So we need to basically clean up these pins. As you can see, they're not quite nicely flushed, which you kind of expect. They're not though, so we need to make sure that they are. Now that we're zoomed in, this being the top part, this being the lower part, easy enough to tell by the bit of plastic on the side. We need sort of a dental hook thing. Anything will do really that lets you scoop in there. Just be very careful that you don't stab yourself in the palm of your hand from the other end while you're messing around. But what you need to do is scoop to get in there. Just about. I haven't got really a lot of light in this room, but you need to get yourself under and pull the pins up ever so slightly, because you don't want to cause too much metal fatigue and ruin the whole thing. You can just about see on this edge I've managed to do it, and you just work your way along all the way. So I've gone through doing that, and I found that holding it like this and doing it like this was actually the easiest way for me to do it. If you're left-handed, you're going to have to scoop it around the other way, but I did find this was the easiest way to get underneath and pull up the pins. You don't want to do it too far, as I say. Now, the one thing I do want to do now though is actually get in there and clean it with some isopro, and basically I think the best thing I can do is just go mad, spraying the whole thing, and then using the other end of the scraper, sort of rubbing up and down on it to agitate it a bit and hopefully knock off any muck that's on there. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to do it away from your hand, because obviously alcohol drying on your hand at this percentage isn't the best thing. You can always go put some moisturizer on and later on. But it's more this side I'm more worried about anyway, about cleaning it off. Just be careful when pulling it back up, don't do that because you'll scrape everything. As you can see now, when I push down, the pins are actually dancing about because they're so far up now. You may want to mess around and get a jiffy cloth and a bit of thin cardboard to push down, but I don't have any of them in the house right now. I did go have a look, but I haven't got any. Right, so I'm going to be happy with that. Might not be the best for me at the moment. I may have to wait until I have got some jiffy cloths and a bit of cardboard, but for now I'm going to be happy with that. So I'm going to dry this off now. Okay, so after you've waited for the edge connector to dry off, or at least while it is drying off, you might want to go and attack this particular chip, which is on the underside of the motherboard, hence why the RF shield's over there and everything. And you want pin 4 of this chip. We can zoom in. Oh, I can't do it, press the red button. All the way in, it's this chip here, which is known as the 3195A, which is basically the lockout chip. I'm sure it's a lot more interesting to other people that know a lot more things about them, but I don't. And we're after this particular pin. So here there's a little dot in the corner which indicates that this is pin 1 here. So we've got pin 2, pin 3, pin 4, and you can be cheeky like I've done. You can see that it doesn't look like the rest of them. That's because I've already attacked it with some snips, because I wanted to make sure you can actually get them in there. Just, so carefully, and make sure it is pin 4, because if you mess it up, you're going to mess that chip up. And then now you've got a region-free Nintendo Entertainment System, or a NES, whatever you want to call it. But now it's time to wrestle with it and put it all back together again. So this RF shield can be a bit annoying to argue with, especially since it's got the port on the bottom and you have to line it up inside there. So I'll get on with doing that. So let's make sure we get these 2 screws back where they need to be, so there and down there. Always doing the trick that I like to do, well, maybe not trick, but maybe the way that you should use it is go counterclockwise first, and you should hear like a little thud. There we go. And now we can screw forward, being sure that it's going into where it's supposed to be going. These screws do seem a bit stiff. I'll mess around getting that screw in and then lining up the other ones. Time to get the tray in. So line that up. Seems that it's best to lift it up just a little bit and it slides underneath as well. So you may remember that the 2 larger screws go here and here, and then the other 4 go in the other 4 holes. So again, always go backwards a little bit first, anti-clockwise, and then clockwise. But I'll get those 6 screws in now. Now putting the RF shield on top and getting on with the rest of them. Making sure that they're not going to go through any wires or anything like that. And I'll get on with the rest. Okay, before getting the main shell back on again after it's been washed and so on, I'm going to test this cartridge, because it's the only cartridge I've got. So put it in. Seems a lot stiffer putting it in now. Press it down. And let's see what happens with the power button, because obviously doing the mod chip bit, not the mod chip, the... Okay, now that I've got to this point, I'm just going to test the cartridge. So I've already put it in, pressing it down. I'm going to turn it on, definitely hoping for a steady light, because obviously I've already snipped the 4th leg on the region chip. So I press power, so there should be no flashing straight away anyway, because it will no longer do that because of that. But did I get a picture? I can safely say to you, yes I did. I'll mess around and superimpose a picture of this. Okay, so I've messed around, putting all the screws in, put the wires in, put the cartridge in. I'm going to press power. Now I do expect a steady light straight away, but hopefully I get a picture on the TV, and I do. I'll superimpose this over the top, somewhere on this side probably, just to let you see what it does at first, because I've not actually got it all wired up into my capture card right now. It's just going straight to the TV. So there's that fixed, and I'm really happy about that. But what's also really nice, while I've been making this video, turn that off, this cartridge arrived in the post, so I'm going to put that in there now, push it down, turn it on. You see you get a red light anyway, and there we go. This cartridge works as well. What have I done with the gamepad? There we go. And lo and behold, I have lots of games now, and I'm really happy about this. So a working Nintendo Entertainment System. I'll come back in a moment and put the lid on. There we go. Really, just stick these screws in the bottom. Job done. Now I do want to say though, just before I leave, I recommend that if you do see any rust spots, you get some vinegar and soak it in there, or get some anti-rust chemicals that you can get, because that needs getting. Okay, so lid's back on apart from the screws. It all works perfectly. Nice little red light. Get a nice picture to say it's composite anyway. That's about it with that really. Let's have a talk though about that. A bit of rust. I highly recommend that you mess around and get rid of that. You can use some vinegar to soak that, or you can get some chemicals that actually get rid of rust. I highly recommend you do that, because what you don't want is the rust spreading and ruining the motherboard or the power supply, not power supply. Okay, before I put the lid on, I think it should be pointed out that really what you want to do is get rid of any rust spots, because it will spread over time and wouldn't be good for the PCB. It's not good for the components. Why go through all this effort if you're not going to do a good job of it in the long run? I currently don't have like the space to show you how to do that, but really look up anything on YouTube to get rid of rust. But apart from that, I'm really happy because now I have a working NES. I can use the Miracle cartridge. So at some point I will show that in use plugged into the keyboard. I don't know how really, because I really don't have the space here, but I'm going to have to make sure my cables are long enough to reach everywhere before I do that one. But I will bring it back and show you what it is and how bad my keyboard playing is. But that should be fun to see how it all works with the NES, because I do have the proper cable for that as well. I hope that was informative on how to get a bit of a scrappy looking NES up to working condition. As always. Okay, before putting the main lid on, I want to point out mine does have some rust spots in not particularly nice areas either, and I'm going to mess about and get rid of them off camera, because I just don't have the space to show you how to do it. But basically you soak it in vinegar and scrape it off, or you can buy some chemical stuff that does it as well, and you can get non chemically stuff. Basically it is just vinegar really, but I recommend you get rid of the rust, because it will spread, and it'll ruin the PCB or the motherboard, and you'll end up with a non-working NES. So why waste your time doing all this fancy stuff to fix it just to leave it to rot anyway? So after you've done all that though, put the lid back on, put the screws in, and jobs are good, as they say. Before I say all the normal bump at the end of the videos, I do want to point out I'll be coming back to this Miracle cartridge and giving it a go with the Miracle keyboard, and we can have a look together on how it actually works with the software already on here, because I haven't actually had a chance to do that yet because this wasn't working. So we'll have a look at that at some point. I don't know when, but we will have a look, and we'll take the mickey out of how poor my keyboard playing is, because I am starting from scratch pretty much. The other side of it I would like to do though is, if this video was informative to you, please press the subscribe button, press the up down thumb button, not both at the same time, mostly ups, and become a patron. That would be great. But as always, happy gaming.